Hi, welcome to this week's Fundraising Friday. This week, we're talking about the executive committee of the board and the role that they should play on your board and in your organization. Many organizations have an executive committee, which is made up of the officers of the board. Their purpose, or their original purpose, is to be a smaller group who can meet outside of the board meetings when there's an emergency situation and it's not feasible to get the whole board together. However, often they morph into a small group that makes meetings on behalf of the board. You don't want that to happen. So what's a good use of your executive committee if you choose to have one? First of all, you want to make sure that they are available if in an emergency you need to have a conversation or a decision needs to be made. For example, if your executive director quits suddenly or has some kind of an emergency, often it's the executive committee who will get together to kind of go, okay, what are our next steps before they get the whole board involved. Second, they can be a really good sounding board for the executive director and for the board chair to just kind of say, hey, this opportunity came up, or we're thinking about this or that, and just want to bounce it off some people before we take it to the full board. Because the executive committee is deeply ingrained in the mission of the organization and the business of the organization and are held to confidentiality standards, they can be a really good sounding board. Third, it also helps to get your board members increasingly engaged as you move them up the ladder to become president. So if you've got your vice chair or vice president of the board on that committee and your treasurer and your secretary, they get more intimately involved in the business of the organization so that if and when they become president, they're ready for that role. So an executive committee isn't necessarily a have to on the board. And many times, board I'm on, we have an executive committee meeting scheduled each month, but if there's nothing to talk about, we cancel it. We don't want to have the meeting just to have the meeting and to have a meeting before the meeting, before a board meeting. But it is nice to have that opportunity to have that group if you need them. That's this week's Fundraising Friday. Thanks. Have a great weekend.